Board game designers need to have a lot of different skills. We need to have strong creative muscles so we can generate new ideas often. We need to know how to quickly and cheaply prototype those ideas, and then know how to run a playtesting session to gather feedback. We also need to know how to present our ideas to publishers, which includes knowing how to record and edit pitch videos, as well as how to create sell sheets. And sell sheets are what I'm going to focus on in this video. So what are sell sheets? Sell sheets are one-page documents that designers give to publishers as a takeaway when they pitch their game to them. They summarize the most important parts of your game, including the title, player count, age range, duration of the game, components of the game, a summary of the gameplay, possibly including an example of a turn, and your contact info. I made a video explaining more about what sell sheets are and how to lay them out generally in a video, which I will link right here. But in this video, I'm actually going to show you step by step how I create my sell sheets using Google Drawings. Now, before we get started, I want to emphasize that you do not need to worry about sell sheets if you're still playtesting your game and you're not ready to pitch to publishers. I've seen this where designers are creating sell sheets for games that are still early in the playtesting process and they're still making big changes to the gameplay. Sell sheets are marketing tools that are used for final or mostly final designs that are ready to be pitched. So don't jump ahead and spend time creating sell sheets when you really should be focusing your energy on testing and iterating your game. All right, with that said, let's get started. So you first want to get to Google Drawings by going to your Gmail account, going up to the apps, clicking on Drive, and then I have this folder here. So you click into whatever folder you've created for your game. Let's say you want to create a folder for your game idea, just click New and click New Folder. So let's click into this one I've already created. So these are my reference sheets. We're going to be recreating this sell sheet here. So by the end of the video, you should be able to know how to make a sell sheet that looks like this. So this is for a game that I worked on for a long time and I'm currently trying to make it into a mobile game. But this is what I came up with for my sell sheet. And again, if you want to learn more about the different areas of the sell sheet, the best way to lay things out, I would recommend watching that video I made about explaining sell sheets in general. So the first thing we're going to do is create a new Google Drawing. So we're going to go New, More, Google Drawings. And so because we want to make this something we can easily print, we want to make it the size of a standard piece of paper. So we go to File, Page Setup, and then we go Custom, and we make it 8.5 by 11. Standard piece of paper size. So this is our reference sheet here. So we are going to start with the title of the game. So let's insert a text box. So we have a shortcut here. You can also go Insert Text Box, clicking and dragging. So let's just type it out first and then I'll change the font to what I have it there. So Where the Wind Blows, and it is size 36, and the font I use is called Pacifico. Just a note that Pacifico might not show up when you click on the fonts here. I'm pretty sure you have to add it. It's not one of the standard ones that comes as a default. So if you click on the font drop down list and then you click More Fonts, you can see a bunch of different options, a lot more options than you might see on the list right there. So there's Pacifico, Lobster is cool too. You can see which one you might like, and then you can click on it and then go OK. And then now that will be available in the drop down because you can see there's not a ton of options here, but you can add more just by going to More Fonts. And I'm going to make it size 36. And then it's centered. So I'm clicking into the text, I'm clicking Command A to select all or edit select all, and I'm going to center it by going to Align and Center. So there's our title. Now for these little things blowing around in the wind, I'm going to get to that in a second. Let's just finish with the text here and get that done first. So we're going to insert another text box right below it. And I'm just going to copy over this text here. But basically, this is where you have your elevator pitch. So you want to include the most important hook of your game right here. So I used Arial size 16 and was over a little bit. So I basically, for the layout of this cell sheet, I have two columns. I have the left column with the text and the information about the game down here, and then here is a turn example on the right. So here I say, Where the Wind Blows is a puzzly tile game where players collect umbrellas, hats, kites, leaves, and balloons swirling around in the ever-changing wind. So you're trying to, you know, get the interest of the publisher here, include the main mechanics used in the game. Some people will have a list of the mechanics that are in the game somewhere on the sell sheet. For me personally, I just like to include them in the elevator pitch. So say this was a worker placement game. Where the Wind Blows is a worker placement game where players have to blah, 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 blah. So I like to include the mechanics in the elevator pitch, but it's up to you how you want to do that. If you have room to include a list of mechanics, you can do that, but I find I never have room to include another list on the page. So let's continue on. So I had this bigger just because it's kind of like the main hook, and then I went into more detail in a smaller size font down here. So let's just copy that over as well. This is size 11 Arial. I like to use just a plain Arial for text to make it super readable. I'll have like a fun font for the title of the game and then just Arial for the rest of the text just to make sure it's easy to read. And then down here we have some of the most important information. So I'm just going to copy this over as well, but this has how long the game is, the age range, and the player count. And then very importantly, it has the contents of the game, which is important for publishers to know that information. And then of course you have your contact information, including your phone number, email, and if you have a website. Definitely make sure you always include your contact information because this is completely useless if the designer has no way of getting in touch with you. I would actually put this down so that it's more of an easy to read list. We have the room, so might as well. To make this bullet list, I just went over here to the list function and clicked on bulleted list. And you can have a numbered list as well. Let's get over to this part, which will take the most time to explain. So if you want to show a turn example of your game, which I think is great to show in a sell sheet if you have the room, because I feel like it really conveys how a game plays in the easiest, most visual way. So how I did this was that I basically created 4 different Google Drawing documents, which I downloaded and then inserted into this sell sheet as an image. So if I go back here, you can see I have my reference documents here. So if I click this open, so this is the first turn example here. So we're going to recreate this. So let's go back here and we'll create a new Google Drawing and we'll make the size 5 by 5 inches just because that's what we had in our reference document. It doesn't really matter, but we'll make it a square. So we go page setup and we go custom 5 by 5. All right. I will also mention here that if you don't want to spend the time creating digital visuals of a turn and your board and the cards and all that stuff, you can just take photos. Just take photos of the different setups of the game and that totally works fine. I've done that as well. Just for this one, I just wanted to make it super clear how the different things move around and have different graphics and stuff. So I decided to make it on the computer in this way. You definitely don't need to. You can just take photos. But for this, I'll show you how I did this. So we have our reference document here. So I made the board in the background is just a white square. So let's quickly throw that in there. So we go up to this shapes shortcut here and we pick the rectangle / square shape. We're clicking and dragging, holding down shift so it stays a square. And then it defaults to this blue fill. So we'll go up to fill color and we'll click and make it white. And we'll leave the black border around it. Now, let's insert all of our rounded rectangles in the back. It's a 5 by 5 grid here. So we go back to the square option and we want the rounded rectangle shape or square shape. Click and drag, hold down shift. And let's just go back to our reference document. I'm going to click on one of the squares. And I'm going to go over to the 3 dots, click format options. I want to see how big this is. Click down size and rotation, 0.36 by 0.36. So we'll make that the same on our new document. So we go format options. Oh, and it's exactly the same. That's awesome. And then we don't need to fill, so we will make that transparent. Now, we have the tedious job of copying and pasting this 24 more times. I'm going to do it a slightly faster way. So I'm going to click it, Control C, Control V to copy and paste, or right click, copy, paste. And I'm going to do it again, and again, and again. But now, to save us a bit of time, I'm going to click and select all 5 of these. It did select the backboard. We don't want that, so holding down Shift to click that, so it deselects that. And now we have all 5 selected. Now I'm going to copy all 5 instead of copying just one. Copy and Control V to paste. Now we're going to drag it down, moving it till you see that center guideline show up, so now you know it's centered with the above row. And we can just do that quickly a few more times. And before you know it, we've got a 5 by 5 grid. Not straight, we can straighten it up. So let's fix that. So we can clicking and dragging to select just those 5, hold down Shift to deselect the backboard. Just move it to the left, now you can see it's centered. Same thing here. Now we have our 5 by 5 grid. Now I want to group all of these squares together so they're easy to move around as a group. So I'm going to click and drag, hold down Shift to click on the backboard, deselect it, right click and click group, or Command Option G. Now if I click on one, it selects all of them, so they're easy to move around. Command Z twice to go back. Command Z is undo. Okay, so let's move on to the next part of this. So we have our little icons here. So I just went to Insert, Image, Search the Web, and what was the yellow balloon? Yellow balloon. You can just find, sure, that one looks great. Click on that, click on Insert. And a very large balloon will show up. Click in the top left corner, or any of the corners. Click and then hold down Shift so that it doesn't get skewed. And then you can just resize it so that it fits into one of the squares. So I actually have these exact files already downloaded on my computer, so I'm just going to quickly bring those into this document. Okay, so select all of those, click and drag and drop them into our document. I'm going to have them all selected, and I'm going to click in the corner, hold down Shift, and it actually resizes all of them at the same time, so that's kind of nice, save a bit of time there. I have 5 of each, so I'm just gonna randomly put them in each square. So we have our 25 tiles here. Okay, so in our reference document, we have this square that has a dashed border to show that there isn't a tile in that spot anymore. It's been removed from the board. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna put this arrow in here and move this tile out here. So let's do that now. So I'm gonna move this kite off here, and then when I click on the square, it selects everything because it's a group. But if I click it again, it selects just that one square. So I'll move that out and bring those two back together. And then I'm going to click on this square because I don't want it to be part of this group anymore, because when I manipulate it, I don't want it to change anything here. So I will ungroup this one square. So now when I click on it, it just selects that. But now these are all not grouped anymore, so I will make this all a group again. Okay, so let's throw in a square back here and give it a dashed border. So I'll just click on one of these and copy and paste it, and then put it back here and then have it line up in the grid. So now to make this a dashed border, we just go up to the border dash shortcut, we click on that, and then you can see all these different lines you can make the border. So I believe it was that one. Yeah. So there we go. Now we have a red arrow that's going to be pointing out to the tile that's been removed. So we go to the line here, and then we click on the drop down and we go arrow. And then we'll click. So these purple dots show up. They're trying to be helpful, sometimes they're not, but basically if you click anywhere, like anywhere near the shape, it's going to automatically connect to one of these points. So say I click here, see how it jumped to that point even though that's not where I had my cursor, but that's fine. So it connects to that purple dot and then it connects to, let's have it connect to that purple dot. So it's a black arrow. I want to make it red, so I'll go up to line color and choose red, and I want it to be a bit thicker, so we'll go to line weight and we'll make it maybe 4. Oh, that's too much. Let's make it 3. Sure. So you can see that my cursor is the sort of crosshairs icon now. So if I were to click anywhere else, it would keep doing arrow, arrow, well, arrow. But if I didn't want it to do that, so yeah, I was in the line function here. So if after I'm done my arrow, I don't want to make any more arrows, I just click up on the select option here and it returns my cursor back to the select icon. Let's add in our wind direction dial here. So we have a circle. So we'll find that in the shapes, click and hold down shift. It was around that size. We'll have no fill. And we just had, I think it's, yeah, just 2 lines I just put back here, I'm pretty sure. So we will do that by clicking the line function, just straight up line. Okay, so now these purple dots are very helpful because we're gonna go from this dot to that dot, and then we're gonna go from this dot to that dot. Perfect, very easy. And then we're gonna add a blue arrow as well. So we'll go back here, we'll go to arrow, and clicking and dragging, making it purple and increasing the weight to 2. So you can see that this arrow looks quite a bit different from this arrow, and I like this arrow a lot better. So another option you can do for making arrows rather than using the line arrow function is you can actually insert an arrow shape. So let's go to insert shape, arrow, and we'll pick that one. Okay, so it defaults by pointing that way. We want it to be pointing down. So we just click on this little handle that sticks out here, and you'll see when I hover over the blue dot, that crosshairs shows up. So we click on it and then we turn it and we can rotate it around. And if you hold down shift, it will rotate in, I believe it's 15-degree increments. So you can make sure it's straight. So you can see it's exactly 90 degrees there. So I let go. Let's get rid of this little guy here. And let's get rid of the border. So we don't need that black border around this arrow. And then let's make the fill blue. And let's move it on in here and let's resize it right around there. That's good enough. Okay. So then I have this little red curved arrow here to indicate that this dial has been turned down by the player. So to do that, we go to curve. And this is a really interesting tool. You can do quite a few interesting things with it. It's not perfect, it's not as great as like the pen tool in Illustrator, but it can do some cool stuff. So if we click here, now you'll see that this line comes out of that point where I clicked. And then I'm gonna click again. Now it added an anchor point at that spot where I clicked it again, and you see it's curving. And then if I double click, now it's done. So that ended the curve. So now if I go back to the select arrow, if I double click on this, you can see the 3 anchor points on this curved line, and now you can adjust them. So let's bring this in a little bit. And then let's bring it down here. Let's zoom in a little bit so you can see this a bit closer. The way I did that is I went Command Option plus sign. You can also go View, zoom in, or even quicker, zoom. Okay, so let's get back to our curved line here. So you can adjust the entire size by just clicking on the line and then adjusting one of these corners. So we'll do that. And then we're going to add the arrow head to one of the ends. And the way that you do that is you go up to line start or line end. So we'll go line end and we'll add an arrow. And that's pretty cool. And now let's go to the line color and we'll make it red. So that's pretty cool. You can do some fun stuff with that curve function there. So cruising through this, let's quickly add these circles down here and that text. I'm just gonna copy this circle so I don't have to deal with the fill and whatnot. So I'm gonna zoom out a little bit. These were slightly smaller, I believe. I'm gonna move this up. And now if I just click on the arrow and I click on the purple dot there, I can just bring it back to where it was here. Oh, what's your problem now? Weirdo, okay. So let's move that up. Let's copy and paste. And then there was some text in between these two circles. I think it said shared tiles, shared items. Shared items. Command A to select all. Let's make that smaller. Sure. And Command A, make it centered. Move it up, up. Great. Okay, there was an umbrella in one of those circles. So let's just copy one of these umbrellas. And you'll see that in this one, I twisted around all the different icons so that they, they look like they're blowing around the wind, because in the game, they would be all orientations depending on how you lay out the tiles. And so, yeah, if you wanted to do that, you just click on an item, and again, you hover over the handle and you just rotate. So you can do that for each of them if you like. So let's add an umbrella. So we're clicking on just the umbrella, copying and pasting, bring it into here. And that's fine. So let's make this little power up section down here. So we've got our title, which is 14 Pacifico. Let's add that in here. Where the wind blows. Center it, Pacifico. What was it? 14. Perfect. Great. And if you want to make sure it's exactly centered on the board, you can extend the text box to either side. And because the text is centered, you'll know that's exactly centered there. And we can use the arrow keys to move it up and down. We'll just go up a little bit. Now, let's add in these power cards here. So they're just 5 squares. Let's quickly throw those in there first. Let's just go shape, square, hold down shift. Gotta make it smaller, smaller, sure. No fill, copy, paste, 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 and one more. Here we go. Okay. Yeah, it's just those 5 things at the bottom, nothing else. So I think I'll center those as well. So I'm gonna clicking and dragging, holding down shift to, holding down shift to deselect the back, and I'll just use the arrows to kind of center it a little bit there. Okay, so the first one was a lightning bolt. So we can actually insert that as a shape as well. So let's go insert shape. And was it call outs? No, just regular shapes. There's a lightning bolt right there. So there's a few helpful symbols in here, especially for board games like the stop symbol or different things like that that could be helpful in your game. These little rounded pieces you might want to use, different things like that. For now, we just want the lightning bolt. So I'll select that. And I'm clicking and dragging. And you can see here that I actually have the other orientation. So you can do that by right-clicking and go rotate, flip horizontally. Now it's facing the other way. You could also do that. So I clicked on the middle dot here and I dragged it all the way to the left. And you see it flips it. I believe if I hold down shift, no, it doesn't really matter. So yeah, you can flip it that way, or you can right click, rotate, flip horizontal. We will make the fill yellow And we'll bring it on over here. We will click holding down Shift to resize it. Beautiful. Oh, this was the other way. Okay. So now let's zoom a little bit to see how I did this because I can't remember. So we've got text, we've got little shapes, we've got a curved arrow. Easy enough. All right, so let's zoom on in here. Okay, so let's insert rounded square. Holding down Shift to keep it a square. And what was it? It was 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1. So we don't want to fill. It might need to be even smaller. Okay. Copying and pasting. 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 So I selected all of them and I'm resizing all of them at the same time by clicking in the corner and holding down Shift. I'm going to select one of them, copy and paste to make that fifth one there. And then we had the arrow, the line with 2 arrows. So let's go back to that one we made here and let's just copy and paste it. Bring it on down here. Let's rotate it. So we have an arrow pointing from one square to the other. So first we'll make it black and let's add the arrow head to the other side. So we go, you can see here, so there's an arrow there, there's none on that side. So let's go click on that one and add one there. I'm going to double click on the curved line. I'm going to select the purple dot and bring it down here and bring this one down here and bring this down a little bit. Yeah. Great. And then it said swap to. Let's add that text box in there. Swap to. That's way too big. Let's go way down. And extend the text box out. Moving on up. Great. What's the next one? It's wild with a star. So let's copy and paste that text box. And wild. I'm going to select it all. I'm going to center it. Like that. Whoops. Bring that down. Okay, so it was a star with 5 different colors for each point of the star to show it's a wild. So let's go insert shape. And there should be a star. Is it callouts? Okay, for some reason it's in callouts. So we'll go there. Holding down Shift to keep the shape. Resizing it as needed. Okay, let's get rid of the border. And, okay, now let's leave a border for now because we're gonna get rid of the fill. But we can make the border, no, that's as small as it goes. We'll get rid of that later. Okay, so for now, what I did to do this was I actually inserted 5 different shapes like this and just rotated them around. So 5 diamonds to make this star, this wild star. So let's insert shape. We'll find the diamond shape. I click and hold Shift. Let's see, I don't know, this might not work, but we'll try. So we're just gonna use the star in the background as a guideline and we can just get rid of the star after. Okay, so I'm basically just rotating it, I'm resizing it till it's kinda close to the star behind it. Let's get rid of the border. Let's change the color to purple. copy and paste, rotate, so it's pointing to the top. I'm gonna leave that, leaving it. So you know what would have been an easier way to do this? If we just found a multicolored star clip art. Let's see what we could have found here. 5-color star. All right, yeah, that would have been a lot faster. We did that. But anyway, it's done. What's done is done. So we'll get rid of our background star. Look at this little guy. Hey, when you zoom out, it looks great. Yeah, let's go even further out. Okay, so let's move right along to connect diagonally. And this I can do much better than what I did here. So let's do that. Zooming in. What was it? 1, 2, 3, 4 with 1 on top. So let's click and select these 4. Holding down Shift, deselect that, deselect the square. Now we have just those 4 selected. Control C, Control V. Bring them on right over here. And we want to have one of them, another one of them right on top here. So we want to show you can connect diagonally with this power. So what I did here is I just had three lines. I made one line here, I made one line here, I made one line here. So a better way to do this would be to actually make an actual connected line. So we go up to line and we click polyline. Then we click here. You see now it has the line coming out of it, but this isn't curved, it's straight. Let's click here, and then let's click here, and let's click, double click. Here, I'm gonna hold down Shift so the line's straight. Double click, boom. So now we have an actual connected line there. We're still in the crosshairs here, so if I were to click again, it would start making another polyline. So you just go up to here to click the select arrow, and now you can click around without making shapes. Okay, so now if I select this line, I can change the color. I'll just show you for example here. I think I will leave that red. Just visually it's easier to see when it's red. You can add, arrows. You can add different kinds of endpoints. So this can be a really helpful tool, especially if you're making like a board and you want to show different endpoints and whatnot. So let's just get rid of both of those. Excuse me. Weird. Okay, so I guess that the little dot means no dot at all. Okay, so we'll click over there and we'll do that as well. Okay, and it just said connect diagonally. So let's add that text. Connect diagonally. Let's go a little wider so it doesn't have to be so teeny tiny. Whoops. Okay. Extra, pick up and drop. Okay, we know how to do this. We're gonna do this so fast, right? Copying and pasting, moving. Extra, pick up and drop. All right, that, boom, easy. Copy and paste. Make it bigger, holding down Shift. Got a little plus sign in there, which we can insert as a shape. We could also insert it as a text, which I don't really love. It's not as easy to manipulate, but you could, if you wanted to, enter a text box and then, just do the plus sign. And then you can move that around. But I am going to insert a shape. And it's in the math section. All right, let's get rid of the border. Let's add the fill. And I'm gonna resize that down a little bit. All right, that's great. And we just had a curved arrow coming out of it. So let's just copy this one. We're gonna rotate it. We're gonna get rid of this arrow here, which I believe was the end. Resize it. I will make this red as well. I feel like visually that's just easier to see. And you see how the arrow is a little hard to see now, so let's double click on it so the purple shows up, and we can kind of just move. We can adjust the curve just so it's a bit easier to see. And I don't think you can make that arrowhead any smaller, unfortunately, because right now it is the smallest. So if anyone knows if it's possible to make the arrowhead smaller, let me know, but I think that's the smallest it can get. Let's just move it on down a little bit. Maybe that's helpful. Okay, that looks fine. Let's change this red as well, now that the other ones are red. All right, there are our 5 powers. So, what else is there left to do? Okay, so we are going to add these numbers here, which correspond to the text of the turn example. It says, you know, number 1, number 2 corresponds with 1 and 2 here. So let's just quickly add those in. Text box 1, selecting all, bolding it, turning it red, and it's not as big. 12 is probably fine. Move it near where step number 1 is happening. Copying and pasting. Number 2 is showing that you pick up. So in step number 1, change the wind direction if you want. Step 2, remove a tile from the board. So we'll put that near where that is happening. Great. And then I just have player 1, player 3, player 2, and so on. So let's quickly add those in here. So this player is collecting hats, this player is collecting balloons, and so on. So let's just quickly add those in. And the very last thing is I just have this first player marker over here, so let's quickly add that in as well. So I just searched for windmill clip art, and let's just do this one. Insert. And I'm going to resize it down, and then if I double click, it brings up the crop option. So I'm going to click and drag the middle dash there, and then it makes it smaller, or it cuts off the part that I cropped out. If you double click again, you can always bring it back. And then I just added a little base to the bottom because that's what my game looks like. I had this little player piece with this little green square at the bottom. Insert the shape, and I believe it was this one. That looks close enough. And then we'll just change it to green. Okay, we're just gonna resize it a little bit. And then, yeah, okay. There's a little first player marker, and we can group these two together so they move together. So I'm clicking, dragging, selecting both of them, and then grouping them. Okay, I think our first diagram is done. All right, so let's download this as a PNG because we don't want, well, I mean, it doesn't really matter because our document is just gonna be printed on white paper. So it doesn't matter if there's a white background, but if you didn't want a white background at all, make sure you download as PNG. If you download as a JPEG, I believe it always adds a white background to the image. So I just by default always download as PNG. So let's go File. Well, let's give it a name first. Turn example 1. And let's download, for the file, download PNG. So let's go to our cell sheet here. Now it's downloaded and we just click and drop it in. So now we have this lovely turn example here, which is pretty cool. So let's add in the text here. So I'm just selecting all, copying and pasting it in here. And I did italicize this just to differentiate it from this other text. So you just select all, click italics or Command I. And you see here how, because there isn't a background, I can overlap it with the text, and the shape doesn't cover any of the text because there's no white background. But if there was a white background, this text would be cut off. So that's one of the reasons I always download as PNG. Then I did I did 3 other examples. So I won't go through all of those in detail because this video is already way longer than it should be. But I mean, you got the main gist of how I created these turn examples, and then you have the text on the side. I added in these lines to sort of visually separate the different sections, so we can add that in here. We just go to line, clicking, holding down shift so it stays straight. Let go. You can change the weight of it here. You can change to make it a dash if you like, and then just click back on the select button to move it around. So let's just finish with those little swirls that I had right here. Very simple. I actually just created it within the cell sheet itself. So let's bring up those files again. So I'm going to select the 5 items, going to drop them in here, making them much smaller. Zooming in. And then I just have them kind of floating around, so I just kind of sort of rotated them in different directions. All right, and then I just added in these little swirls. Go into Win Clip Art, and let's just use this one. Let's go Insert. And then I don't want this turbine here, so if I double click, the crop comes up. I'm just gonna click and drag. Click and drag up, try and get rid of as much of that as possible. Click enter, and then that's good enough. So I'm just gonna resize it. And there is a white background here, so what you can do is you can just send it to the back so it doesn't cut off any of the items on top of it. So you just right click, order, send to back. You can always remove the background by going to websites that can remove backgrounds from images really easily, but for now we'll just send it to the back. And we're going to just resize it, make copies, kind of rotate them around. Okay, so yeah, so you would just replicate what I did here for the other turn examples. Okay, I'm just going to shift some of this down because I don't like this big gap here. Did I have a line there? I did have a line there, so let's add that in. So let's just click on the line option, click, hold down shift. Now I have a bit of a visual separation between the elevator pitch, how to play, and then the different aspects of the game. But I still will move this down a bit because I feel like it's too scrunched up at the top. Move all of this down. Just get some breathing room between the title and the text. So just to visually finish it off, let's just copy and paste this. Okay, sure. Let's pretend that there are 3 turn examples. So let me just show you how you can save it as a PDF. So you can go to File, Download, save it as a PDF. If you want to print it, you just go up to Print, and then you just always want to make sure that all the information won't be cut off. So you can go to More Settings, and then you can go to fit to printable area, and it'll just kind of squeeze everything down a little bit just to make sure that nothing gets cut off when it's printed. That took me about an hour to make. I was, talking through how to do everything, so that did slow me down a little bit. But once you get better at using Google Drawings, you can generate cell sheets fairly quickly, and they can look really nice and clear. So I definitely like it as an option for laying out my cell sheets. But yeah, it is a pretty powerful tool, and it is free up to a certain storage amount, so it is a great option to have. Basic graphic design skills are definitely a great tool for board game designers to have. But again, do not spend a ton of time on this stuff. The most important thing is making sure your game plays well. And if you can clearly communicate how the game plays in your cell sheets, then you're doing great. One other thing I will add about cell sheets is that you've probably noticed that I like to make things as cheaply and quickly as possible, and that includes cell sheets. Some designers will make cell sheets that have a lot of color going on, entire color backgrounds, lots of ink being used to make their cell sheets. And if you plan on printing these things and bringing them to conventions to hand out to publishers you might be speaking with, that's using up a lot of ink on your printer. And so I'm a fan of as minimal amount of ink as necessary, just to keep general costs down. So if this video was helpful for you at all, or if you enjoyed it, please be sure to like and subscribe. Be sure to follow me on social media at Pam Walls Game Design, and I'll see you in the next video.